I am truly honored to have our next guest here, Jeff Eichorn, top architect for Debaker Design. He has been doing amazing work in that field for about 2.5 decades. Our careers aligned very early on. We met 2 decades ago, and he has been my number one source to go to throughout this time. I think a lot of people in general are a little intimidated of the scale of a project when the idea of an architect gets involved.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden it feels more grandiose, more expensive, just a bigger project. So can you talk to me a little bit about kind of that concept and that thought process, how you guys come in, how you work with clients, and some of how your work with the clients can actually impact the cost, and sometimes on a more positive level?
Absolutely. So I think one of the first things that we would do before you even hire an architect, whether it's us or whomever it might be, is you have that initial meeting, walk through the house with them, talk about the project goals that you have, what do you have in mind, and then really be honest about the budget that you have for that project and what you'd like to spend. That architect should be able to give you an idea if that's realistic or not. And that's also important because then moving forward with design is that we can make decisions that will help keep that project within the budget that you've got. If you're not honest about it and we're not sure what it is, we'll have some ideas that can be all over the map just to give you different solutions, but then you might be, well, now this is too expensive. So let's just be honest about what that is and we can work towards a budget. Additionally, what we like to do is we break the overall process down into different smaller phases. So the first phase is going to be like a schematic design or preliminary design. When you do that, we find that it's important to take a pause. We have a design that we like, very simple at this point. Start talking to contractors as well. Bring them in, discuss a little bit of ballpark budgets at that while we have it. No one's going to be able to give you a firm price at that point, and that's okay. You're just looking for roughly, where is this coming in?
Are we playing on the same field?
Absolutely, right? So before you take the investment of going through this design process, all that time and money, let's see where we're at first. And often we recommend actually partnering with the GC earlier on. Maybe you're not signing a contract with them, but here's a GC that we like, we think we could work forward with. Because then what they can do is, in conjunction with the architect, is actually prepare more detailed budgets. And that helps protect you about where you're going to be in the end when you have the construction documents finished. So are we on that same page? And at each phase of the project, we stop and we look at the budget again with the contractor, modify the design, and go forward in that slow process.
No, absolutely. And from what I'm hearing, it's a lot about strategy and planning.
Yeah, a lot of planning. And that's, I guess one of the mistakes people make too, I would say back to that, is going too quickly. Like, give yourself some time to go through the process. I know when you decide, like, I want to do a project, you want that new kitchen right away, right? You don't want to wait 6, 8, 12 months to have that done. So it's hard to maybe slow down, but allow yourself to have some extra time to study the designs, do some budget studies. It takes a little bit longer, but you're going to have a much better product in the end.
So I think the other thing that people really kind of get stuck on with regards to kind of is what projects are best to engage an architect on. I mean, obviously we know we're building a new house, we need an architect.
Sure.
We're trying to, to do a complete kitchen remodel. We want to move things around. We need an architect. But I think most people are pretty surprised that you guys work on smaller scale jobs as well.
Sure.
As you mentioned before, kind of the home offices. So where do you see yourself most brought in on these smaller scale jobs?
So I would say that if you're looking at doing just some simple finish changes, like new tile, new countertops, maybe replacing some cabinets, probably don't need an architect for that. Although some architects can deal with interior design elements as well, and that's a good value for it. But working with a designer might be a better starting point. If you're getting to the point where you're looking at maybe we're going to start moving some walls a little bit, expanding the space, then I think it's worth having an architect come in, because not only is it their space planning ability to help lay out the most efficient use of that space, but then there's also a lot of building code and structural elements that come into play. And you want a professional that is familiar with that to make sure that you're not doing anything that's going to be dangerous down the line. So
we're not doing some of this?
Exactly, right? We want to make sure that it's going to be safe and it's going to stand, and we're not going to have
that makes sense. And the way that I would digest that is, if you're just putting some makeup on it, you're probably not the best first call. But if you're going to do a little reconstructive surgery, a little facelift, that's when you can kind of come in and really add your value.
Absolutely.
As people are making improvements in their homes and modifications, they're always curious to make sure that they're doing things that are hopefully adding more equity than not. Some people are just saying, screw it, I just want whatever's for me. But a lot of people want to make sure that they're doing things that are adding value to the home versus distracting.
Sure.
From your line of sight in terms of these, are there things that you see that you feel like are really adding overall to, maybe you don't know the value, but the overall aesthetic and flow of the house versus things that you might say, oh, this is something that I don't think works quite as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think the heavy hitters, so to speak, I would say probably, I would assume add the value, because these are, I guess, we're downstream from you in a sense, right? They buy the house. Very common for clients to come in and want to redo their kitchen, open it up a little bit to have a larger family room to the kitchen.
Yep.
So those are going to be, I think, high value projects. They're expensive, the kitchen, one of the most expensive places to do anything in. So there's also a time element that comes in. How long are you going to stay in this house, right? If this is a house that you're like, I'm going to be in here for a couple of years, 2-3 years, don't gut the entire kitchen, because you're not going to get that money back. Unless you really want to enjoy it for yourself and just be comfortable that you're not going to get all that money back. But if you're there for a few years, then these bigger projects really work, because they'll add that value to the house, make these changes that buyers would probably want or be looking for. So yeah, like kitchens, bathrooms, the mudrooms, finished basements will add a lot.
What would you say? Is there anything that you've said? And my guess is that they're probably less classic changes and a little bit more personalized. But in terms of things that you kind of say, feel like they maybe take away from the flow or the function of the house?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, if you're going to do things that are, highly specific to your tastes.
Red lacquer kitchen cabinets.
Exactly. Like those can be pretty sharp if you have that. It looks like the Ferrari cabinets. I've seen those, and they're awesome, but they're not for everybody, right?
Yep.
It's often why you'll see a lot of neutral colors, why it's such a popular choice, right now. It looks great, and it's a safe choice. We are starting to see actually a little bit more color come into play, I think, here coming up. This kind of goes back, I guess, to trends, but colors are going to become, I think, more popular, which is exciting.
Right. I think that we have been in a very gray palette. I'm not a huge lover of gray, but it's been obviously everywhere. We've seen a tremendous amount of it, and I think now we're going to see a little bit more pop of warmth and color. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think
so too.
Okay, here's a good question for you, kind of going off the mark here. Somebody's first having this thought process of, I want to renovate my kitchen. I want to do some work in my house.
Yeah.
Who do you think the first call should be to? Are you the first call that somebody should make?
I think talking to an architect first is good. I would say it's either going to be that or a general contractor, right? I think it's good to start with an architect and then sort of go from that point, just because we can work with you a little bit more on getting the design to what you really want first. What I like to say is if you start talking to the contractors first, you could bring in a few contractors to talk about your project. But without any drawings, it's no way to understand if they're talking about the same thing. It's more pointing or gesturing, and that's, what is it? Are we really talking about the same project? If we get through that initial preliminary design phase, then you have something on paper that you can start to talk to contractors about, and you're going to be on the same page. It's more of an apples to apples comparison when they're talking about their timing and the budget, and are they qualified to do that work? So if you start with the architect and you have at least a base document to work from, I think you're going to be more successful in finding a contractor that's a good match for you and for your project. So I like to start with an architect.
No, I agree with that. I'm going to edit that a little bit. I hope personally that my clients are coming to me first.
Well, of course.
To then say, which architects do you trust the most? Because I've weeded through quite a few of them. And as you know, I actually like to stay involved in the process as well.
Sure.
Because I can add some foresight on making decisions that are worth investing in and making decisions that are going to have a little bit more staying power on the backside, right?
Absolutely.
And that's where a lot of times we work together with some of these things to say, how do we have a product that at the end satisfies the needs of the client, is very saleable on the backside, and we were conscious of the budget in the end. And it all comes back to that whole idea of teamwork, which is one of the things I really always appreciate about you, is that you're not the person that draws the plans and then says, peace. You are invested in the project until the project is done.
Yeah, definitely. And we're really good, I think, about tailoring our services to the client's needs, right? We'll be as involved or not as the client really would like. We like to be involved more, but there's some flexibility in there, and that helps too with the budget, right? How much do they need the architect for, right? If someone wants to do and they're hesitant to use an architect, but they want it for some space, we can come in, do the necessary drawings that you need to get this project good. It's going to be a great flow, but maybe you're good at picking out of the plumbing fixtures and the tile on your own, and you want to do that or excited about it. You don't need us to do that, but you can use us if you would like. So having a flexible service package, I think, helps with that.
No, and I like that fact that you have that ability to be a little a la carte. I often talk about it, that I think some of the intimidation of using, whether it's a designer or an architect or anything else, is that you kind of see the way the media portrays the industry.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that you can have a situation that's customized to your very own.
That's true. We are portrayed a certain way in the media. Usually it's black with like a cape or something like that. Although I did realize this morning that most of my clothes are very dark. So I guess that is true. But yeah, I think it can be intimidating, I think, to maybe to start to work with an architect. But having that initial meeting with them, for us, it's just a sales call, right? There's no charge for it. Just a conversation about what you're looking to do. And I think once you start that, you'll realize that we're pretty approachable people.
I would back that.
Right. And, there's the mystique, I think, will wear off maybe pretty quick. And it's, we're here to help you and guide you through the process, really. So, really our job is to not only just create a project that's going to work well, function well, aesthetically beautiful, but help educate you on the process, and help guide you through it as much as you would like us to or not, and just be your advocate.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, I can't thank you enough for being here. I am so happy that everyone else got to see, and get to know you a little bit more, just because I think so highly of you. I think so highly of your work. You are incredibly approachable in what you do. And just thank you so much for being a part of this.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.